I welcome you all on this pleasant Saturday morning to yet another webinar organized by Academy of Arbitration Avenues International. Academy of Arbitration Avenues International is a non-profit organization that mainly aims at creating awareness on ADR mechanism. This organization has been going strong for the past 8 years in promoting and encouraging the settlement of disputes through arbitration under the vision and guidance of its honorary chairman, Justice E. Padmanabhan, former judge of Madras High Court. Justice Padmanabhan has delivered many landmark judgments during his lordship's tenure, and post-retirement he has headed important committees and also acted as an arbitrator for various PSUs and corporates. It wouldn't be out of place to say that the Academy would not have come into existence without its president, Dr. Paul Chellakumar's keen interest and relentless efforts. Dr. Paul, who is also an arbitrator, has been involved in international education for over 4 decades and has visited over 250 global universities. I welcome you, sir. Today's online lecture is conducted in association with Sai and Sai Arbitration Center, sponsor and technical coordinator of this webinar. Sai and Sai Arbitration Center is an alternate dispute resolution organization which mainly focuses on providing state-of-art infrastructure facilities and venue for arbitration. With COVID-19 pandemic overwhelming the entire world, everyone is so optimistic about vaccines. When vaccine trials are being conducted in such a swift phase, the main challenge is in difficulty in maintaining complete adherence to approved protocols and regulations and other guidelines. In terms of accountability, what is the standpoint of law on clinical trials? Talking today on this topic, law, ethics, and clinical trials, we have Mr. Arvind Subramaniam, Advocate Madras High Court with us, and I take immense pleasure in welcoming and introducing our speaker today.
Hello, how are you?
Hello,
I wish
sir.
you all a very good morning, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to AAI and Sai, and I hope you'll enjoy this subject because it's very new and it's something which nobody has spoken about. So I thought I'll take this opportunity to present the basics of what is clinical trials and the law associated with clinical trials. But I'll be talking to you both in English and Tamil because I think that would make it more interesting. Or otherwise, it's a very dry subject, you know. So
Yes,
to
sir.
make it more interesting, we'll make it a very lively conversation. Okay?
But before that, I would like to take the satisfaction of introducing you to the participants, sir.
Yeah, please do that. Let's make
Yes.
it, don't make it too.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Mr. Arvind Subramaniam holds a BCom degree and a post-graduation in public administration from Madras Christian College. And after obtaining a postgraduate diploma course in personal management and industrial relations at Madras School of Social Work, he went on to pursue law and enrolled in the year 1987. He has a rich experience of over 30 years at the bar and has been appearing in many high courts, including the Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, and Kolkata High Court. He also practices and specializes in varied branches of law such as company law, banking law, matrimonial law, arbitration, constitutional law, and criminal law. His legal expertise also includes FIPB approvals, project financing, joint ventures, H-1B visas. He has appeared for many landmark cases in the state, and his clientele includes Overseas Sanmar Group, big group of companies, EID Parry Limited, Shriram Group of Companies, India Cements Group, to name a few. Mr. Arvind is a member of Legal Committee to Tamil Nadu Cricket Association, also member of Editorial Committee of Law Journal TNLG Notes. He is associated with many hospitals and advisory board member of Trauma Care Consortium and YRG Care Medical Center. And on behalf of everyone, I welcome you, sir, and it's a pleasant having you here today.
Oh, thank you so much, Bhargavi. It's very nice. Thank you so much to all of you. Thank you so much. And before I start, I would like to just tell you that this is going to be, it's a journey which I'm going to trace of a drug. Am I audible, Bhargavi?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah. So it's just a journey of a drug, you know, from how it is invented to how it ends up in the market. And what are the various laws governing that in the intergenum. Okay. So I would like to start with the history of clinical trials and how it all started. And the history can be traced back to Germany in 1933. Germany at that point of time was under an economical change, and they were conducting trials on various human beings in order to find out what is the best way to have a very clean society. Okay, and Jules Hallowerden was the man who started these trials in Germany, and he was doing a lot of psychological trials to find out the medicines for cure. And in those days, the doctors in Germany willingly participated in the death of their clients to find out the the drugs which is necessary for the cure of various ailments. What happened was in Germany, when Hitler took over, the the he wanted a clean society uh, for the Germans so that they can contribute to the economy of the country, and that is how he started all these things. Now, the vital conflict is, as far as this subject is concerned, is whether the weak should be preserved or exterminated is the backdrop and the fiber on which this topic hinges. That's how the clinical trial started, whether the weak should be there or they should be exterminated. Uh, the science without conscience is the ruin of soul. That's what Rabelais says. When science involves a reprehensible crime, and whether the ends a researcher pursues justifies the means employed in the research. That's the basic ethics of clinical trial. Whether the researcher who is pursuing the search of a drug, what are the things he should follow, and whether the means employed in the research justifies the end and it is beneficial to the society. This is what is going to be the crux of the issue. Now, coming to the basics of clinical trial, let us first see what is a trial. A trial is it's derived from a Greek term called trier, a French term called trier, which means trial. And clinical is a Greek word called clinic, which says that it is for the search of medicine for the people. So this is how the clinical trial, the word is coined to know what is a clinical trial. But before going into that, it's actually it's very interesting to know that we had such things in the ancient India. We have scripts like Charaka Samhita is called the text of medicine, and Sushruta Samhita, which is called the textbook of surgery, which was compiled in 2000 BC and 200 AD, and shows that medical research is not a new concept as far as India is concerned. இப்போ வந்து ஆக்சுவலா வந்து இப்போ தி இந்தியன் மார்க்கெட் இஃப் யூ டேக் ஃபார் கிளினிக்கல் ரிசர்ச் இஸ் நியர்லி வர்த் மோர் தென் about $2 to $3 billion. This is the current market for clinical research in India. Now, science breeds technology, okay, and technology cannot be without law. So technology has to be guided by law if it has to be this is the Taraka Mantra for that, or the relationship between technology and law. So this has to be very clearly understood. Wherever there is technology, wherever there is research, wherever there is an invention, law has to should be marching side by side. So this is the crux of the issue today. Now let us go to the origin of clinical trial. As I was saying before, the Germany la da idu modalla aarambichanga, and after Germany, the World War, the researches conducted in Germany were transferred to the Second World War. If enna Germany la enna pannangalo adha World War II in the concentration camps, where you say no ivlo Jews vandu they terminated so many Jews. That is only a follow up of what they were doing in Germany. After the World War II, when the number of people who were killed or died were found out, it was astronomically shocking. Nearly 6
I think there is a small technical problem from our speaker's side. He should be joining us very shortly.
Combined technology with law is well done.
Bhargavi, let me check and come back.
Yes, sir.
Sure. Yeah, he's joining back. Actually, he got disconnected. He didn't notice that. So he's joining back. Yeah.
Is it okay now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Correct. Okay, right. So I will just start from where I left. When the German war, they had a lot of these issues which were related to medicine. And we had some of the best doctors. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir. You're very audible.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So some of the best doctors were from Germany at that point of time, who were doing a lot of research on the psychology, alcoholism. Then you had this genetical disorders. அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு subjects எல்லாம் German had a very excellent set of doctors who are doing research on those issues. So what happened was they were when the World War started, they thought they can extend their research to the prisoners of war. The prisoners of war being the Jews and the other civilians who were arrested or who were taken into custody. அதுல வந்து அவங்க என்ன பண்ணாங்க, they started exterminating the Jews. They were taking out these brains of the Jews and found out why the Jews are so brilliant. எதுக்கு எப்படி அந்த எதனால அந்த brilliance வருதுங்கிறதுக்காக they were taking out the brains of these people and preserving it and doing some research on that. So that being அப்படி இருக்கும் பொழுது, after the war ended, the Nuremberg, that the court which was constituted to go into the criminal aspects of extermination by the Germans. So அந்த சமயத்துல வந்து they evolved certain principles. இப்போ ஒரு clinical trial பண்ணணும்னா what are the basic principles you have to adhere to அப்படின்னு வந்து பாக்குறாங்க. Now clinical trials பண்ணும்போது they said they laid down 10 clear principles, and the most important of these 10 would be one, making voluntary consent essential. Suppose you can't conduct a trial on anybody whose consent is not voluntary. That is a very important point which is still followed in all the courts in India and abroad. Voluntary consent. You cannot force somebody to undergo a clinical trial as a volunteer. You have to be they have to make a consent, voluntary consent. Two, the subjects who are now undergoing these clinical trials as volunteers can withdraw from these at a will. There is no restriction on their withdrawal. Three is the banning experiments which result in major injury or death. When you are doing a trial, you must know the consequences of the trial. You should not do a trial which causes a death or injury without any, knowingly it is going to be done. Okay. So these are the basic principles. 4 is mandatory requirements for preclinical data before experimenting on human beings. What are the data? What are the data to be collected before experimenting on humans? You can't be collecting data after you start the experiments. You should be doing it before starting the experiments. So these are the 4 major principles which were highlighted under the Nuremberg Code. Then what happened was, subsequent to this Nuremberg Code, we had the World Medical Association, and they added certain more criteria or certain more points for conducting the clinical trials. That is called the Helsinki Declaration, which is very, very important, which is still being followed in various countries who are conducting these clinical trials. After, first is informed consent. 2 is confidentiality of data. That is, whoever are undergoing these clinical trials, their information should be made confidential. It cannot be shared with anybody. 3 is vulnerable population. Who are the vulnerable population? Disabled people, people who are not able to give informed consent voluntarily, and people from the lower strata of the society who cannot defend themselves in case of any violation. 4 is the protocol, requirement of a protocol to be reviewed by the ethics committee. So these are the 4 additional points that were inducted by the Helsinki Declaration after the Nuremberg Code emanated certain principles. Subsequently, during that period, the Americans were conducting certain trials called Tuskegee trials in the African population. So African population, when they were conducting these trials for syphilis study, it's a sexually transmittable disease. They were conducting for 40 years from 1932 to 1972. During that period, there were several deaths. So when there were deaths, how do you compensate for those deaths? That is, there was no framework, there was no law. So the Belmont report was inducted, saying that these are the parameters you should take when you are conducting trials on human beings. So Belmont report enna solranga 3 principles. 1, respect for person. 2 is beneficence. 3 is justice. And they were applied in various formats. Justice is people who are not able to defend themselves. How do you do it? Beneficence is what are the laws? What are the rules that you need to follow when you are conducting these trials? And respect for person is, you must respect human beings and you cannot treat them as products of a research. You have to give them that respect of a person. Subsequently, madam, what happened was, the World Health Organization made some important declarations which were as follows. What are the protocols to be followed when you are doing research on certain sections of the population? 1 is, vulnerable research populations require special protection. That is the first point. When you are doing some research on vulnerable population, suppose there is a mentally deficient person. In England, you have the Mental Health Act and one. That is very important, and that is used for various things. Even for drafting a will, you have to ensure that the man who is drafting the will is mentally sane and is of sound mind. So அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு ஆக்ட் வந்து இந்தியால கிடையாது. Like the Mental Health Act in America, in US 2005, which is amended in 2007. We don't have a separate act which regulates those sorts of issues. Of course, we have the Mental Health Act also here for certain purposes. So something like that, we need to make it enforceable in as far as the clinical trials are concerned. So next is, what are the risks involved in the clinical trials? Assessment of risks. and that should be evaluated by the ethics committee. Ethics committee ங்கிற ஒரு ஃபார்மேஷனே வந்து இப்பதான் வருது. Because what are ethical practices, what are non-ethical practices ங்கிறது, you need to have a committee independently to review the trials. Third is selection of subjects. Who are going to be the volunteers? Children இருக்காங்களா? How many females are there? How many males are there? அப்படிங்கிறது you must have a division. அதாவது you have to have a the subject பொறுத்து you should have a selection of subjects, the volunteers. Based on this we evolved certain principles on clinical trials on the following basis. One வந்து first research should be initially conducted in a laboratory. You cannot conduct research on human beings straight away. You should have a laboratorical situation. There are 4 phases irukku. Clinical trials there are 4 phases which I will come to you. First phase வந்து laboratory. Laboratory la you should have a animals வெச்சு பண்றது முதல்ல. You test it on animals and then you go into other the human beings. Secondly is you come to the human beings in a very smaller scale. அப்புறம் வந்து it goes into a larger scale and then you go in for marketing, because once you understand the potency of the drug or the effects of a drug, then you go in for marketing at a later stage. Then what is the protocol for a clinical trial? It should be reviewed by an independent ethical review committee consisting of various people from doctors, lawyers, pharmacologists, then pediatricians. You have a variety like a jury in America to evaluate the study. So this is very, very important. Next is that study should be made available publicly. It should be available. It should not be, it should not be a secretive study. It should be made available. Transparency. Then you have the participation of the participants, which should be voluntary. Then the subjects should be given, should give informed consent. அதாவது வாலண்டரியில வந்து அவங்க சேரணும். You can't force any subject to come and you have to explain to the subject what is the consequences of this trial. எதுக்காக அந்த ட்ரையல் செய்யறோம், for what purpose. Then you tell them this is the purpose and these are going to be the effects of the drug. இதுதான் நாங்க பண்ண போறோம் அப்படிங்கிறது டிரான்ஸ்பேரண்டா சொல்லணும். The transparency is a very, very important thing. Then the effectiveness of the drug. How do you get the drug? What effect it has on the disease or the whatever is the purpose for which you are finding the drug. You must tell them the effects of the drug. நாளைக்கு இது சாப்பிட்டா இது மாதிரி வரும், இந்த மாதிரி எஃபெக்ட் இருக்கலாம் அப்படிங்கறத you must be very clear on that fact. Then the last one is the trial participants who are all should have access to that. இப்போ சப்போஸ் நீங்க வந்து ட்ரையல் வந்து பிரேசில்ல கண்டக்ட் பண்றீங்கன்னு வெச்சுக்கோங்க. For a product in India, you are doing a research in Brazil. The Indians who are being, for which the product, or the Brazilians who are undergoing that, should have the benefit of that product. You can't merely use some people for the purposes of research alone. That those people who are undergoing that research should have the benefit of the product also. So that is very, very important. It is called post-trial access, which I shall come to you. Now, these are being the main features of global principles. Now we come to the second part, which is called the ethics in clinical research in India. India la what is the position? Global la ivlo irukku nadakarudhu. Then you have the various policies in India. How did it evolve in India? How did it evolve? Basically enna, it evolved in 1980. Basically it was research. It was research in India was very, very at a very nascent stage. Even though we were the pioneers in certain issues, it's in a very nascent stage. First வந்து என்ன பண்ணாங்க, how did they introduce these policy statements? They established the ethics committee in medical colleges and research centers. First, any medical college or any research center in India there has to be an ethics committee. That is how it was started. Then after it was introduced in that sense, then what happened was we had the Institute of Cytology and Preventive Oncology in Delhi, which became public in 1997. The origin of the trials in India was started first in colleges and research centers. Then slowly it was transferred to the other areas also. And then what happened was, then ICMR, Indian Council for Medical Research, which is the premier institution which you would have all read in all these papers, which is introducing these new vaccines and which is the parent body which governs the clinical trials in India. அவங்க வந்து என்ன பண்ணாங்க, they set certain guidelines called ethical guidelines for biomedical research on human subjects. It was started in 1997. Then after that, it was revised again in 2006. That is, the ICMR rules are there, which I should be sharing, and those rules keeps revising. இப்போ COVID, they had a new rules in 2019, and which is being followed also. And in 2020 also they had rules, a set of rules which are now governing the researches during this COVID period. Now என்ன ஆச்சுன்னா வந்து, during this time in 2004, the pharmaceutical companies என்ன பண்ணாங்க, they wanted to explore the Indian market, and as a result of which they started conducting trials in India in 2004. The basic reason is, India la enna or advantage na population, then the variety of population. 3, income levels are very low. 4, there is no legal framework for governing these trials at that time. So what happened was, the company started entering the market and were conducting various trials. During these trials, there was a lot of deaths. Between 2004 and 2012, there were nearly about 76,000 deaths in India on account of various unethical clinical trials. Unethical trials, where you see that the participants were treated as just mere chattel and not as human beings. So that being the case, we had to have some guidelines for that. And during that period, there was a bill, public interest litigation, filed in the Supreme Court. Adula enna pannanga, the Supreme Court which is monitoring, I'm sharing that with you, started monitoring these clinical trials, and the Supreme Court that case is still pending. And during that monitoring period, several introductions into the legislature started taking place. First, the amendment to the Drugs and Cosmetics Act. Schedule Y was introduced during 2013, where the topic of clinical trials was introduced. What are the basics? What are the guidelines? Adalla வந்து introduce பண்ண ஆரம்பிச்சாங்க slowly, because it was not like there was never any such rules prior to the Supreme Court intervention. Then what happened was, certain guidelines were also being introduced. Those guidelines are essentiality. The research should be carried out is essential for advancement of knowledge. These are the basic principles enunciated. 2, voluntariness. Voluntariness is informed consent and community agreement. இதெல்லாம் வந்து it came out of the Supreme Court guidelines which need to be followed. அப்படின்னு சொல்லி Supreme Court said these are the things you should follow, all these things. Third is non-exploitation. That is, என்ன பண்றாங்க, volunteer வந்து they pay money and bring the volunteers. So when they are paid, they do not know what for they are coming, and they are being used for various things, which is quite contrary to the medical principles. Next, privacy and confidentiality, which is again in Puttaswamy's case, this is one of the things which was harmed, where they said privacy and confidentiality has to be maintained, because when you are dealing with a person, you are dealing with everything which goes into their primary or their confidential information, like your blood sample groups, என்னென்ன இருக்கு, அவருடைய உடம்புல என்னென்ன வியாதிகள் இருக்கு, இல்ல என்னென்ன பண்ணலாம் அப்படிங்கறதெல்லாம் confidential information which should not be shared in public. So on the privacy and confidentiality, it has to be was one of the primary reasons which felt that these essential the volunteers should be protected from all these disclosures. Next என்னன்னா precaution and risk minimization. Any research is, you should know what are the risks involved in that. இப்போ நீங்க drug பண்றீங்கன்னா what are the risks involved in that, you should know that, and then you should go advancing these issues. Next is transparency. It should be conducted in a fair, honest, impartial and transparent manner, and full disclosure should be made by the researchers before he starts the trials. Then the next is the institutional arrangements, like who are going to be the organizations who are conducting this trial and what are their qualifications, adella vandu clear ah theriyum. Adukapram public domain, all the results of these trials should be uploaded in the public domain for people to know what is happening. If COVID பத்தி நம்ம பேசணும்னா what is happening, whether it should be in the public domain. Then is the total responsibility. The researcher should, or the sponsor should take total responsibility for the research he is undertaking. He cannot shun responsibility saying it is not his job to compensate the volunteers who are undergoing this research. Adukapura enna compliance. What are the compliances? Legal compliances or the statutory compliances? Adalla vandu you should be able to comply with all these things. அதுக்கு தான் வந்து இப்போ என்ன பண்றாங்கன்னா ICMR is doing, then drug controller general இருக்காரு, then we have now a system called registering of clinical trials. அதுக்கு ஒரு தனி registry இப்போ போட்டிருக்காங்க after 2019. So these are the things which are very very important. That is what the Supreme Court also enunciated. And for the viewers, I'm going to give the Supreme Court decision which was talking about informed consent. In fact, if consumer cases lang kuda, you have a lot of these things happening in consumer courts and consumer cases where operations are being conducted, and there are several patients who have suffered wrong medical diagnosis or wrong medical surgeries have now approached the consumer courts, and compensation is being awarded on a case-to-case basis. And Supreme Court also formulated a formula which stated that ஒரு ஃபார்முலா கொடுக்குறாங்க, இப்போ சுப்ரீம் கோர்ட்ல ரெக்கமெண்ட் பண்ணிருக்காங்க, இந்த ஃபார்முலா தான் நீங்க ஃபாலோ பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னு சொல்லி ரெக்கமெண்டேஷன்ஸ் ஹவ் கம், பட் இட் ஹஸ் நாட் கம் இன்டு தி ஆக்சுவல் பிராக்டிஸ். அதையும் நான் வந்து இப்போ உங்களுக்கு நான் சொல்றேன் நான். ஸோ இப்போ என்னன்னா கிளினிக்கல் ட்ரையல்ல பார்க்கும் பொழுது யூ ஹாவ் தீஸ் வேரியஸ் திங்ஸ் கம்மிங் அப். நவ் வாட் ஆர் தி next I'm going to what are the unethical clinical trials. Bhargavi konjam அந்த ஸ்லைடு போடுறீங்களா? unethical clinical trials.
Sai Bhaskar sir,
அந்த unethical only நீங்க போடுங்க. So I'm just giving you some specimens of what is unethical. இப்போ என்ன ஆச்சுன்னா when what happens is when what is an unethical clinical trial na, suppose let us take, இப்போ நான் ஒரு எக்ஸாம்பிள் சொல்றேன், ஒரு I will give you some examples, a few examples which will show what is an unethical clinical trial. இந்தியால வந்து ஸ்பெசிபிக் எக்ஸாம்பிள்ஸ் நான் சொல்றேன். சாய் பாஸ்கர் சார்.
Sir, your presentation we are able to view it as a small thumbnail only. We are not able to see it in the full screen, sir.
It's okay. I'll make it. Then I'll just tell them. Then we can circulate the.
Yes,
no problem.
Yes, sir. Just a minute, sir. The presentation you can actually like you can select my name and then like you have to click a pin. There is a pin symbol.
No problem. I will just make a presentation. Then we can circulate the material later also.
Sure, sir.
We'll do that. No problem.
We have that India slide, sir.
Yes, India. Letrozole trials in India. See, sure. Letrozole is it's a medicine which is being sponsored by Sun Pharmaceuticals in the year 2003 for inducing ovulation for women. இதுதான் வந்து அவங்களுடைய basic drug, letrozole. But what happened was it had other repercussions. See, drug was globally approved for treatment to breast cancer in post-menopausal women, but this was not approved in other countries. So what happened was when you are using it, people who are not aware of this participated, saying that it is used for conceiving. it induced women into consuming. So they took part in the clinical trials thinking that it is used for conceiving, whether it is only for treatment of breast cancer. So the lack of informed consent, and the subjects are not informed about their participation in the trial. This was the norm which was violated as far as this drug is concerned. What was the purpose of the drug and what was the purpose for which it is used are two different things. So this was one of the things that constituted a violation of the which was unethical practice. Next வந்து என்னன்னா, I'm just giving you one or two examples. Next is the Silenzacetron trials in India. Silenzacetron trials வந்து Silenzacetron is used, the drug is used for treatment of diarrhea from irritable bowel syndrome. That actually I'm just giving you an example. This was sponsored by Solvay Pharmaceuticals, and the most important was it was a new molecule which was found, and it was cleared by the Drugs Controller of India, even though it was only for phase 2 trials. That is, we have various phases. I'm coming to that. And these drugs were being used for phase 3 trials when it was not really meant for that. So you are using a drug which is not crossed phase 2, you are using it in phase 3. So this is one of the violations as far as this drug is concerned. Then you have zonifuroid trials. Zonifuroid is manufactured by Pfizer, and it is for cardiac events, perio-operative cardiac events. This is unethical aspect. Phase 3 trials involving zonifuroid was cleared by Drugs Controller General of India, even though phase 2 trials have not been concluded in the USA. And the reproductive studies on animals mandated by Indian law was not completed. So these are the various unethical practices which are being conducted by the pharmaceutical companies, which I'll circulate all these material to the participants. Because of these unethical clinical trials in India, what was the impact of these unethical trials was what was before the Supreme Court in Swasthya Adhikar Manch Indore, and another was his Ministry of Health and Welfare and others, which was reported in 2013 Supreme Court. You can make a note of that. In WP number 33/2012. This is reported in 2014 SCC 788. இதுல என்ன சொன்னா, இதுலதான் வந்து several points were taken out, what I now mentioned, where the points that were discussed in the Supreme Court decision in 2014 SCC, Swasthya Adhikar Manch Indore, and another was his Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and others. இதுலதான் வந்து the malpractices of clinical trials, what is the role of a government and non-government investigators who are investigating into these trials, and also what is the power of the Drug Controller General of India. Then what are the various medical policies you have to follow. அதுக்கப்புறம் தான் the GO 2019 வருது. In 2019 the Ministry of Family Wealth and Healthcare passed a detailed GO which became the ICMR rules of 2019. That's guideline. Then the amendment into the Drugs and Cosmetics Act. Then what happened was the point salient features of this Supreme Court, which I would like to highlight, are the following. One, what are the malpractices which you can treat them as malpractices or unethical practices as per the guidelines of the Family Wealth and Health GOs. Two is, what are the details of the who are the number of people who have died in the clinical trials. Then what are the serious side effects of the drugs which are being invented under the various clinical trials. Next is the details of compensation. Adha patti yarume pesala. The compensation aspect was never ever discussed, or there was any rule which had or which stated that இந்த ஒரு side effect க்கு இவ்வளவு compensation, death க்கு இவ்வளவு, disability க்கு இவ்வளவு அப்படிங்கிறது there was never any rule or law which the Supreme Court said we will introduce a formula. அதுதான் இந்த formula நான் சொல்ல போறேன். So these were the main aspects of the Supreme Court judgment which is still being monitored. This is வந்து இன்னும் pending ல இருக்குது. It was not this is being, the Supreme Court is monitoring all these, which is 2014 14 SEC 788. Then subsequent to the Supreme Court, the ICMR ஒரு formula develop பண்றாங்க. That formula is, which I will which I have also said, is C is equal to A into B bracket 1 minus F bar 100. இதுல என்னன்னா, for assessing the compensation in the case of trial related injury or death, the following parameters needs to be taken into consideration. 1, age of the deceased. 2, income of the deceased. 3, the seriousness and severity of the disease. 4, percentage of permanent disability. So these are the 4 factors you need to take into consideration while calculating the compensation. But because this is, nobody is following this, but the ICMR thought it is fit to recommend these formula to find out how best a volunteer can be compensated. Idhula A is equal to the age of the subject, B is the income of the subject, D is the percentage of disability caused due to the subject because of the clinical trial, F represents risk factor, a scale of 0 to 100, which will be determined for using the seriousness and severity of the disease. So in the formula was what was evolved by the ICMR when the arguments were presented before the Supreme Court. These are the various legal aspects which needs to be highlighted as far as this clinical trial is concerned. Now next we go to the various clinical trials which are conducted by the various companies. One, it is called the treatment trial. Treatment trial is for invention of a new drug. அதுதான் இப்ப நீங்க கோவிட்ல பாக்குறீங்க. This is the trial which is now being conducted for invention of a new drug. 2 is the preventive trial. That is for vaccines. The vaccines which you are now going to find for all this pandemic and all that. 3 is the screening trial, where it is used for testing the various methods. If suppose you are following a particular method, whether that method can be improved or not is the basis of this preventive trial. So the 3 types of trials: the treatment trial, the preventive trial, and the screening trial. And the very basis for understanding these types of trial is to understand the drug or device does what it claims to do. இதுதான் வந்து basis of a clinical trial. எந்த trial நீங்க எடுத்துட்டாலுமே what is the purpose of the clinical trial is to understand the drug or device does what it claims to do. அதுதான் வந்து basic. Whether the means justify the end. இதுதான் வந்து basic. Next என்னன்னா, what is the next aspect is, you have seen the case law on this, then you have seen the what are the various steps, formula which is being given. Now we go to the next chapter, which is called the principles which needs to be understood after the unethical trials are the following. 1, the informed consent, which is very necessary and which is also covered by the Supreme Court in 2008. If you can make a note of that, it is reported in 2008 AR 2008, Supreme Court 1385. It arose out of a consumer complaint. Samira Kohli versus Prabha Manchanda and others. Because where a person was treated or was operated in a wrong, he was diagnosed and operated in the wrong place. Instead of a heart surgery, they conducted in another part of the body, leading to further complications. Apollo Hospitals, they had a case about 10 years back where the table tennis player Chandrasekhar was operated, and he won the case and he got a compensation. So, informed consent, you are telling that you are going to operate on a particular part of a body, but you conduct an operation in another part. And what is the value of an informed consent? They were discussing that. It was 3 judges of the Supreme Court in this case, and they held that there was a negligence by the doctor, and the hospital has to pay the compensation. This was the gist of the Supreme Court judgment as far as this case is concerned. So, in the mari when you are doing these sorts of practices, what is the guideline you are having, or what is the law governing all these, is what we are trying to understand in this lecture. Now we have found out that the compensation is being calculated in a particular formula which was not there. This is like evolution of law, evolution of various concepts. Then what happened was, there was a GO passed in 2019 which really revamped the entire clinical trial legislation. Adudha ipo 2019 what we call as ICMR rules of 2019. ICMR rules here they keep revising is because the standards of trials are being varied, or they are being changed according to the situation or the existing conditions. So, idhil enna solranga basically, when you are doing a clinical research, the basic parameters are the vulnerable population has to be protected. Those is the basic criteria. Vulnerable population means poor, illiterates, children, or people of questionable capacity to give consent, including psychiatric patients. Then second is the post-trial access, which I spoke to you about, which said that people who are also participating in the trial should be given an access, and they should know what it is being done for. Suppose you are finding a drug for a particular community, but you are conducting the trial on another community for finding out the drug. So, the community which undergoes the treatment, or the volunteers of that community, should know about the drug, how far it is useful for them. You have to make a drug useful for not only the people whom you are treating, but also for the people who are being volunteers of the for the drug. Then that is called post-trial access. Then next we have the ethical committee. What are the role of the ethical committee? What is that they want to do? How should they do? Ethical committee, every clinical trial, the ICMR lays down a rule that ethical committees should be there to monitor the clinical trial. Every stage of the clinical trial has to be monitored by an ethical committee. So, ethical committee enna pandranga, when the sponsor is inventing a new drug, they go through the papers at every stage and tell the sponsor that this is what you should do and this is what you should not do. That is what the ethical committee says. First, the informed consent process correct irukka abingiradha paakranga. Then the next is qualifications of principal, investigator, and supporting staff. How far they are competent to conduct these trials. 3 is the adequacy of infrastructure, whether the infrastructure facilities are there for conducting the trial. Then the risk-benefit ratio. What is the risk? What is the benefit? Ivlo risk edutha evlo benefit varum abingiradha we assess that ratio. Then confidentiality. The people who are undergoing their information should be kept confidential. Then post-trial access. எவ்வளவு தூரம் இந்த ட்ரையலோடைய ஒரு பெனிஃபிட் எல்லாருக்கும் போய் சேர்றது அப்படிங்கறத பாக்குறாங்க. Then what is the formula for compensation if there are deaths or any adverse events அதுக்கு என்ன காம்பன்சேஷன் கொடுக்கணுங்கிறதையும் the ethics committee decides. So they also need to ensure that there is a regular evaluation of the ongoing studies also. புது ட்ரக்ஸுக்கு ஒண்டி ethics committee கிடையாது. Even for ongoing drugs, even for ongoing inventions, the ethics committee plays a very major role. So ethics committee is actually the backbone for any clinical trial. ஒரு drug வந்து ஒரு from starting till the end, it is a clinic the ethics committee which really monitor the growth of the drug or the usefulness of the drug to reach the common man. So this is the basis. அதெல்லாம் உங்களுக்கு பேசிக்கா தான் சொல்றேன். But there is a lot of procedures also to be followed, protocols also to be followed, SOPs இருக்கு, standard operating procedures இருக்கு. என்னென்ன பண்ணணுங்கிறதுக்கு each ethical committee has a SOP, standard operating procedure. எப்படி பண்ணணும், என்னென்ன மீட்டிங்ஸ்ல என்னென்ன பேப்பர் வைக்கணும், எப்படி how do you approve a drug, what is the presentation, what is the investigation அப்படிங்கிறது எல்லாமே SOPல இருக்கும். So this is one of the procedures which is a backbone. Next is how far are the ethical committee the rules relating to ethical committee. அதுதான் இப்போ வந்து கோவிட்ல வந்து 2020ல they have formulated certain rules which I shall also be discussing in a nutshell. How the ethical committee should do, because இப்போ கோவிட்ல வந்து there is informed consentங்கிறது எல்லா இடத்துலயும் வாங்க முடியாது. Sometimes you have to, in an emergency situation, you cannot get informed consent. So we will have to take a risk and we have to get the we have to operate or carry out the treatment even without an informed consent, which is post medical thing. So I'll come to that's one of the rare cases where you have an exceptions to the rule. The next வந்து என்னன்னா, after all these ethicals and the law and all this subject, you have to now come to the what is the legal framework. What is the legal framework now which is being followed after the Supreme Court decisions, after the Supreme Court recommendations? What are the legal framework conducting clinical trials in India? Today, clinical trials are conducted through a regulated approach following certain guidelines laid down by the ICH, International Conference on Harmonization, which is spearheaded by USA, Europe and Japan. இவங்க தான் வந்து பேசிக்ஸா they give the basic guidelines for conducting clinical research. There are number of legislations and regulations enacted which is prevalent in India. First, what are the enactments which relate to clinical trials? Let us go through it one by one. One is Drugs and Cosmetics Act 1940, Medical Council of India Act 1956, amended in the year 2002, Central Council of Indian Medicine Act 1970, Guidelines for Exchange of Biological Material Order 1997, Right to Information Act 2005, and of course the new Privacy Act, which is now being debated in the Parliament. Drugs and Cosmetics Act பொறுத்த மட்டும் என்ன ஆச்சுன்னா, after the introduction of these after the Supreme Court judgment or the monitoring of the Supreme Court, the rules for carrying out medical research within human beings were prescribed under rule 122 DA1, DA2, DA3, அது மாதிரி DA அது வந்துட்டு இருக்கு. In schedule Y, new schedule was added to the drugs and cosmetic rules. The drugs and cosmetic rules is now the basis or the very legislation which governs the clinical trials as far as India is concerned. So if you go to schedule Y, list of rules are there. என்னென்ன ரூல்ஸ், என்னென்ன பண்ணணும், எப்படி பண்ணணும், எல்லாமே இருக்கு அதுல. So I'm not going to go into those rules now because it's there and you can go through those rules which is there in Drugs and Cosmetics Act schedule Y. Then என்ன ஆச்சுன்னா, then you had the ICMR rules which also plays as a supporting thing in the Drugs and Cosmetics Act. அப்புறம் வந்து என்ன பண்றாங்க, there are various notifications of the government family health and welfare la notifications வருது. As and when you need a separate procedure to be followed, you have various notifications. And second most important என்னன்னா, இப்ப என்ன பண்ணிருக்காங்கன்னா, previously there was no clinical trial registry. இப்ப நீங்க பத்திரம் ரெஜிஸ்டர் பண்ற மாதிரி every clinical trial you need to do has to be registered. It is now become mandatory. It was not mandatory, it was only optional. Now it has become mandatory. So you have to register all the clinical trials which are being conducted, and you have to get the permission of the Drug Controller General to conduct those clinical trials. And there are several clinical trial platforms that are being established, like the ICTRP, that is International Clinical Trial Registration Platform, then which is belonging to the World Health Organization. Then you have the Drug Controller General, DCGI, and then these are the unique UTRN, that is unique trial reference numbers, are given to each clinical trial, and with those reference numbers you can go and find out what is the stage of these clinical trials. So this is how the background is. Now what I felt was that now the growth of these clinical trials, then the growth of the legislation supporting the clinical trials, then you have the new clinical trial rules, which is formulated by the ICMR. It is in the Gazette, 19th March 2019. If you go through the Gazette of that year, you will see these new clinical trials. And this is where they say the new clinical rules will supersede Part XA and Schedule Y of the new clinical of the drugs and cosmetic rules. And they have made some introductions or new amendments to the rules. That is the drugs and cosmetic rules. Schedule Y, there was some amendments. Those are, it defines what is a new drug, and the definition of a new drug is now being introduced in rule number 2W, which was not there before. What is a new drug? To include inter alia drug including active pharmaceutical ingredient. They introduce that amendment comes now. What is a new drug? Then the next amendment is what is an adverse event. Under rule 2D, they say that it means an untoward medical incident. Adverse event which was not, there was no definition for that, is now being brought into that. Then Drug Controller India, appointed by the central government in the new Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, has been designated as the central licensing authority under the new drug control rules to act as the nodal entity for licensing and approvals. Section 3 amendment to Section 3 comes. Then Chapter 3 where they talk about ethics committee, which is also being introduced under the new drug control rules, which is now taking place. Ethics committee la enna solranga, the central the study trial can be conducted only with the approval of this committee, whose registration with the central licensing authority will be valid for a period of 5 years. Adalla kondoranga, the tenure of the committee, the validity of this committee, ellame kondoranga. These are the new amendments that is being brought in under the new drug control rules. Then the application for permission. Application for permission to conduct clinical trials is required to be submitted to the Central Licensing Authority in Form CT04. That's Rule 21, which is specified in 2nd schedule and the 6th schedule of the drugs and cosmetic rules. These are the new amendments that are being brought in. Then the question of deemed approval. What is a deemed approval? Rule 23. When a drug is discovered in India, or research and development of the drug are being done in India, and also the drug is proposed to be manufactured and marketed in India, the application for permission to conduct clinical trials in respect of such drugs shall be disposed of by the Central Licensing Authority within 30 working days of receipt of such application. And if the applicant does not receive any communication during this period, the permission to conduct the clinical trial shall be deemed to have been granted by the Central Licensing Authority. India, now they say, if you take time in granting approvals, there shall be a deemed approval under Rule 23. These are the major changes or the important changes brought by the new drug control rules of 2019. Then the manufacture of new drugs for clinical trial, which is in chapter 8 of the drugs and cosmetic rules. The permission of the central licensing authority must be obtained to manufacture a new drug for conducting a clinical trial or bioavailability or bioequivalence study or for examination, test and analysis. The permission, if granted, is valid for a period of 3 years. The labeling requirements and other conditions for grant of permission is also being laid down in the ND, that is new drug control rules. Now, importing the new drugs. The license from the central licensing authority must be obtained to import a new drug for conducting a clinical trial or bioavailability or bioequivalence study or for examination, test and analysis. The license, if granted, is valid for 3 years. Even for when you are importing certain drugs, that the licensing authority grants you permission to import, which is valid for 3 years. So this is all the various important legislations which we saw from inception of the rules and regulations in India. What happened after the Supreme Court intervention? What are the amendments that were brought pursuant to the Supreme Court intervention? What is the formula that is being evolved for giving compensation after the Supreme Court judgment, or some of the major advancement of law in the field of clinical trials? So these are the basics on which the clinical trials are now being conducted. Now we come to the COVID situation. Briefly, COVID situation, there are certain rules which we have to follow in the when we are conducting the follow as members of the clinical committee, research ethics committee. Sorry, ethics committee. The other judgments are also very important, which is reported by the Delhi High Court. In 2019, SEC Online Delhi 10709, Boehringer Ingelheim India Private Limited versus the Drug Controller General of India. Most important is the abbreviated trials. Situation we are permitted to grant abbreviated trial. See, what are the situations where we have these abbreviated trials? Or during an emergency situation in India, like our pandemic, it is permitted. There is no bar on that. But that cannot be the basis for every trial. The abbreviated trials only on certain emergency situations. If you read paragraph 28 of the judgment, which I will be circulating, the office order of the DCGI, new drugs could be considered only in cases of national emergency and extreme emergency, and only in cases where the drug has been approved outside India. These are the preconditions. Without these preconditions, you cannot go ahead with the clinical trial. So there they said that you have to get the permission of the DCGI and the ethics committee at every stage of development of the drug. And if you do not do that, that drug cannot be promoted in the market. That is what the Delhi High Court said. And they said you have to suspend the distribution of the drugs in the market. So that was one of the decisions of the Delhi High Court, which have a lot of impact on the abbreviated trials. Next, the Delhi High Court is between Roche Products, India Private Limited and others. Idhula enna solranga, suppose informed consent vaangana mari kaamichittu adu informed consent sariya illenna, the High Court can strike off that portion of the trial or the phase of the trial where informed consent has not been approved legally, or if it is not been obtained at all, there is a suppression of fact, as a result of which the writ petitions can be dismissed. Because in a clinical trial, The protocols are very important as much as the rules. If the protocols are not adhered to in the way in which it has to be done, then the very drug can be, the operation or the distribution or the marketing of the drug can be suspended. So these are the decisions of the court. Now we come to the foreign decisions. What are the foreign decisions? And even prior to that, even prior to these decisions, there are two other decisions which hold the court as far as clinical trials are concerned. The first is AI Democratic Women Association versus Union of India, reported in 1998, 5 SCC 214, a judgment of Justice Sujata Manohar. The judgment is important because the Supreme Court for the first time took note of the fact that there is a violation of the clinical trial guidelines and a symbolic acquiescence that the courts would not tolerate such malpractices. That you are creating records as though this has happened, as though so much of volunteers had come, as though they had participated. In the way, you are creating certain records which was struck down by the Supreme Court in this instant case. 1998, 5 SCC 214. Then the next case is by Allahabad High Court, reported in WP number 12280 of 2010. Adil enna solranga, Justice Umanath Singh and Justice the bench of the Allahabad High Court, while awarding damages to various victims who have suffered injury as a result of the clinical trials, the Allahabad High Court considered, they awarded damages, and they also brought out the various violations of the pharmaceutical companies in obtaining informed consent and causing the death of subjects who are not even aware of the fact that they are being used as guinea pigs. So it's a very important judgment of the division bench of the Allahabad High Court, reported in WP number 12280 of 2010. Subsequently, what happened was, the international, what is the law in the international courts? What are the various laws we have in international courts? See, what happened was, about when the US drug company funded a clinical trial for a period of 15 years for treating women with cervical cancers. When they were doing this cervical cancer treatment screening method, more than 254 women died. They never even brought it to the knowledge of the courts or the public about the death of these 254 women who are undergoing this cervical cancer treatment or screenings. Then what happened was, the more than 140,000 women were not screened at all, who were in the control arm of the trial were not screened. So these were certain suppressions which were made by the drug companies, and they were taken up to task. And some of the case laws under which these which I would highlight now, are Abdullahi versus Pfizer. It's an American company, reported in 2009 WL 214649. That is an American judgment, where plaintiffs allege that when a defendant used Trovan for use against bacterial meningitis in Nigeria, 11 children died unnecessarily. The plaintiffs claimed that by recruiting children for testing and failing to disclose that Trovan had been linked to life-threatening side effects in animal studies, the defendant violated a customary international law prohibiting involuntary medical experimentation on humans. But the first Nuremberg Code enna sonnona, there has to be a voluntary participation in the trials. But when you are treating children, they come under a vulnerable population. So in the vulnerable population, when children are being treated, you have to take different precautions. They have to be given adequate protection. This is the case law which awarded damages to these children. Then is the US, another US case, Sosa versus Alvarez McCain, where it reported in 542 US 692, 2004, actually 2004 judgment. What they say in that is the court agreed that non-consensual medical experimentation violates the law of nations, and therefore the law of US, the plaintiffs had failed to identify a source of international law that provides a proper predicate for jurisdiction under ATS. That is the law of torts, actually. So that is when there is a non-consensual experimentation. That is when people do not give their consent, and it violates the international law and also the US law. Damages were awarded. In US, the damages are very heavy, it runs into millions of dollars. Then the next one is the Moore versus the Regents of University of California. That is also a 1990 judgment of the Supreme Court of California. The court held that Gold, as Moore's physician, had a legal obligation to disclose interests unrelated to Moore's health. That is the disclosure of information, confidentiality of information. When you are disclosing certain information about your client to research institutes and gaining money out of that, you are liable to pay the concerned client a compensation. So this was the result of that case. Then there is another case in Cincinnati where the constitutional amendment of the American Constitution Amendment, 14th Constitutional Amendment, was violated by doctors conducting experiments on patients, and which is violative of the amendment, 14th Amendment of the Constitution, American Constitution. So these are some of the case laws. I have a list of case laws where in fact in Greenberg versus Miami Children's Hospital, another landmark judgment, the plaintiffs sued the defendants in federal court for a variety of claims, including lack of informed consent, breach of fiduciary duty. Fiduciary duty is a Hippocratic oath which the doctors have to take, and they have to ensure that they do not cause any injury to the patients. They will exercise all medical and legal safety measures for when they are treating with the patients. When they are violating that, you are liable for compensation or for other penalties. Breach of duty, fraud, conversion, and unjust enrichment. The court dismissed all of these claims except unjust enrichment because the plaintiffs had invested considerable time and effort in helping identifying the gene, and therefore deserved to share the benefits of the discovery. So these are all the very important case laws which on the international arena. And after all this, certain recommendations are given by the CODESCO, Central Drugs Standards Control Organization, that is called CODESCO, have given certain recommendations for improvement of legislation as far as the clinical trials are concerned. Some of the shocking aspects of these reports are: the report reveals a shockingly understaffed and an abyssal infrastructure. First report, absolutely no infrastructure as far as the clinical research or drug invention, they are totally understaffed and we do not have any infrastructure. These are the recommendations. Another important thing is hardly 50 people handle applications for drug approval, and just 127 of the 327 sanctioned posts are filled. So you see the number of the lacuna in the administrative sector. and the proposed strength is 1045 of the for processing all these applications. Then 9 deputy and assistant drug controllers handle 20,000 applications of various types, inspecting labs, 10,500 manufacturing units, 600,000 sales outlets, then providing information to parliament. இதெல்லாம் வந்து totally there is a slack of staff. You cannot be working with this staff for all these things. It's a very major thing. And CITSCO is headed by drugs controller whose post demands nothing more than a graduate degree in pharmacy, the qualification of the drug controller. I think now they have increased, they have enhanced that. So what do we see from all this? So when what are the recommendations? Where are we and where should we be? அதுதான் வந்து what is it and what should be? First, a comprehensive legislation is necessary to build up a system of accountability in clinical research, in human experimentation, to fulfill the vacuum in this area. So very, very important recommendations. இப்போ கோவிட் சிச்சுவேஷன்ல உங்களுக்கு ஏன் இவ்வளவு ப்ராப்ளம் வருது அப்படின்னா lack of staff, infrastructure to handle these pandemic situations. We do not have a clue. We are only learning as a trial and error method. So we have these randomly doing things which we do not have any firm guideline on. Next, implementation. There is no adequate or competent implementation of these rules. Even if there are rules, how do you implement these rules? There is absolutely no adequacy or competence for implementing these rules. And unless that is effectively implemented, we are going to have a problem in these issues. Then what are the precautions you should take? இப்போ இதெல்லாம் வந்து recommendations. What are the precautions? First, whether the study is terminated or banned in any country. Suppose you want to conduct a study on a particular drug, first of all you have to see what are the guidelines, whether that is banned in any other country. Ban பண்ண product we cannot introduce in another country. What are the reasons for banning? அது வந்து நம்ம தெரிஞ்சுக்கணும். 2, whether India will be benefited by any invention is one of the important things we should be able to find out. இப்போ நீங்க இந்தியன் பாப்புலேஷனை வச்சு நீங்க வந்து ரிசர்ச் பண்றீங்க, பட் வெதர் தட் பெனிஃபிட்ஸ் இந்தியா, யூ ஆர் யூசிங் இட் ஃபார் சம் அதர் கண்ட்ரி, வெதர் தட் பெனிஃபிட்ஸ் இந்தியாங்கிறத நெக்ஸ்ட் பார்க்கலாம். தென் தி ஹைரிங் ஆஃப் தி ஃபாரின் ஸ்பான்சர்ஸ், ஃபாரின் ட்ரக் கம்பெனிஸ், they should hire local clinical research organizations. They cannot be doing with their own clinical research organizations and then coming and using only our resources for their benefit. It cannot be done like that. They should use our employment, nama research organizations, they should employ local people for conducting their research trials or research, whatever research they are doing. Then accountability, improving the accountability through public access. இப்போ மீடியால நிறைய பேர் இப்போ வந்து we are making so many statements in the media. Whether those things can help in improving the process or the measures taken by the drug controller. Then informed consent forms should be assessed by legal and social authorities. That is why in ethical committee you have social and legal personnel to vet these informed consents, to find out whether they are within the legal parameters, whether they are intact in all respects. Very, very important. Then you have to have a law for investigators' responsibilities. When a person is investigating into a drug, what are his responsibilities? What are his liabilities? What is the extent of his powers while investigating? அப்படிங்கறத நம்ம we should be very clear, and there should be a law for that. Then you have a separate legal cell for protecting the vulnerable people. The vulnerable people mean children or people suffering from various diseases who cannot defend for themselves. They should have a separate legal setup for these people to protect them. Then the next is the ethical underpinnings of regulations more explicit. That is, unethical practices. How do you avoid that? Where do you put the boundaries for that, or where do you stall them? There should be very clear procedures and regulations. Then ensuring legality of ethical study committee. Then the validity of the ethical committee, avங்களுடைய powers enna, I think they should be given some powers through legislations so that that becomes enforceable, because they are only recommendations. They don't have a value or enforceability of law. So those ethics committee should be given some statutory powers. They should be governed by some statutory powers. Then the system of compensation, which is a threefold process. One is treating and compensating for research related injury, treating and compensating for research related deaths, then post follow up, then ensure capacity to protect human subjects, for establishment of consumer courts. Consumer courts la idukku powers kudukanum. They should be given powers even to these consumer courts. Then what is a criminal punishment? See, there is no criminal punishment. Everything is a civil punishment. There is no criminal punishment. So whether IPC sections should be amended to include these sorts of violations also as a criminal offense. So these are the various recommendations which has been given by various segments of the public and also by the various research and ethics committees for follow-up by the Director Controller General of India. So these are the main and salient points which I have highlighted, and I am very thankful to the organizers for giving me this opportunity and also to highlight some of the issues. These are all very basic issues which I have said, and should you have any questions, I would be free to answer them. Thanks, Bhargavi. Thanks, Sai.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for your extensive insight on the topic. This is such an interesting and matter of the moment topic that we are all talking about in the town.
Yeah.
It's not something that we usually come across in our usual sphere of legal practice, but then now we have learned a lot from it. So yes. So we can open the floor for interaction or questions from the participants.
Yeah. Please.
Yes, so the participants, you are requested, you can ask your questions or interact with the speaker today. If you want, you can use the chat window option, or you can unmute and have an interaction with us. So, participants can have a chat with sir after you.
Hello, sir. Hello. Can I ask one question?
Yes, please.
Sir, actually, if there is any violation under the act of under the Drugs and Cosmetic Acts and whatever act you have specified, so where we can initially file a case and complaint if such violation happens.
Yes, you can go to the consumer court now, or you can even go to any civil court for damages or torts. இப்போ வந்து suppose இப்போ வந்து violate பண்றாங்கன்னு வெச்சுக்கங்க, definitely you can complain to the writ petition varum, because there is a statutory violation of the clinical rules of the ICMR. It is a writ petition you can file saying that they have violated all these rules and they are conducting these trials and solely writ petition போடலாம், because it comes under Article 226, and there are several case laws also on those things. Suppose there is a wrong diagnosis, suppose you are being treated wrongly, you can claim damages in the consumer courts also, and you can also move the consumer courts, and you can also file a civil suit if it is a tort or any other violation. But normally drug related violations you can move the high court for under a writ petition. You can do it, because there is no mechanism available, alternate mechanism is not available for remedy. புரியுதா உங்களுக்கு?
Yes, sir.
So
okay.
So suppose there is no alternate mechanism for remedying these things, you can move 226, Article 226. You can do that, no problem. அது அந்த அலகாபாத் ஹைகோர்ட்லயே உங்களுக்கு நான் சொல்லியிருக்கேன் பாருங்க. You refer to the Allahabad High Court and the Supreme Court. They have done it. They have directly gone to the High Court for under Article 226. You can do that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. We have a question from Mr. Vishak Sampath. Does Government of India have any requirements for whistleblower protections and protocols to be followed by these drug companies?
They should. As one of the recommendations was that they should do it, because on the recommendations na padichen pathingala,
Yes.
there I highlighted what are these things should be done, because they don't have any clear methods. There is only mandatory pannirukanga. They have not done it mandatory prior to that. So the recommendations have to be followed because there is no legal mechanism for that. So the whistleblower and solradume, there should be some legal mechanism for that. And there is no, some of the things are still in the amending stage, and I have to, they have to be implemented. That's why Supreme Court is still monitoring all these processes. They have not given any final orders. So every stage, the ICMR or the drug controller has to give what are the things to be done. Clinical trials enna pannano அப்படிங்கிறதுக்கு the whistleblower nu பண்றது ethics committee தான் பேசிக்கா. They are the people who are highlighting what are the lacuna in the mechanisms, what are the things that are being done. It is only in the the ethical committee. There is no other mechanism. இப்போ நான் என்ன பண்ணிருக்காங்கன்னா இப்போ வந்து they want to have a vigilance committee also. It is called the I'll highlight that. That is where it is important. That has to be implemented. That will be the whistleblower as far as these clinical trials are concerned, which is called the panacovigilance, which is derived from the Greek word, which means that there should be a vigilance committee formed under the aegis of the DGCI to keep a watch on these clinical trials. But every clinical trial, they have a separate committee set up. There is also a vigilance committee that is being set up, but they do not perform those duties as required. So that is where we have this gap. Ethics, when there is a trial that is going on and there is some lacuna which is not being properly communicated to the vigilance committee, or vigilance committee is not very clean in monitoring these clinical trials, we have a problem. That is where it has to be strengthened by legislation. There has to be a legislation. I've said that in my recommendations also. This has to be done. There's a lot of loopholes are there. But if in the COVID situation, I think they will tighten up the legal infrastructure also. They will.
Yes. Thank you so much.
You have an amendment to the drugs, new drugs rules 2019. Then you have the methodology or formula for compensation. So it is still developing. I think we will be coming up to that also regarding this vigilance, which will be done.
Yes, sir. Sure, sir. Thank you, sir. Any other participants would like to interact with sir?
And you can circulate all these materials to all the participants.
Yes, sir. Sure.
Whatever slides I have given, it can be circulated to them because they can read it at leisure, and they can even ask questions later also. They can put it in the question box or whatever it is. I can answer those questions. No problem.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Very considerate of you. And if we don't have any other questions, let's wrap up the session. I thank Mr. Arvind for patiently taking the questions and also taking his valuable time for us and enlightening us on the subject. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank our Honorary Chairman, Justice Padmanabhan, for his continual support. I thank our President, Dr. Paul Chellakumar, for giving us the opportunity and guidance to conduct these online lectures. I thank Science Arbitration Center, our sponsor and technical coordinator, for their support and coordination. I thank all the participants.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Bhargavi, finish it. I want to make one statement before I conclude.
Yes, sir.
The very essence of clinical trial, there is a principle behind that. Okay. The principle is the thirst for knowledge and recognition should not make the researcher blind and deaf to humanity. Okay. This is the I would say this is the theme of the entire clinical research. Why it started and how it ended, this is the theme of that. The interest in science and technology cannot obliterate the medical conscience to such a point that to see other people as research material. You cannot use them merely as research materials, but only as to gain or to promote benefit to the society. Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir. We're able to hear.
Yeah. So this is the theme of the entire clinical research. You can't use men as just materials to promote your for your knowledge or for your recognition. You have to treat them as human beings. And this theme has got, science doesn't say you should do like this. Science always says, you know, you go for the benefit of the community or the society. So you can't use this principle for your medical research. That is going to be my conclusion. Thanks, Bhargavi. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, all participants.
And thank you for arranging for this lecture. I thank all the organizers, and I wish them all the best in future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.